Hey, it's Nick with NIXart Studio. Thanks for joining me today on another art adventure. Welcome to the channel. It's Pride Month, and I wanted to draw some sort of fantasy or mythological creature with some sort of connection to the LGBTQ+ community. I wasn't sure what creature to do or where to start, so I did a little bit of online internet research and pretty quickly landed on the Mermaid. You can see the final product kind of flashing on the screen there, but you'll get a better look at this later. So anyways, I was looking online and found that quite a few people in the trans community find the Mermaid to be a bit of an icon, since it has the ability to transition from water to land, and often going from tail to legs. I happen to have an old mermaid sketch I made a while back and thought I would use that. Alright, let's jump right in. So I'm working off of this sketch that I have from back when I was in college. I did this in a life drawing class that I had, where I would often kind of just embellish the sketches and drawings that I worked on to make them a little bit more interesting, like turning them into mermaids or whatever. So I'm working off of this sketch, and I left it basically as is, and just kind of re-inked it digitally. I did add some cross-hatching that wasn't on the original, and just kind of tweaked some of the details. When I originally created this mermaid sketch, I wanted it to look kind of fierce and a little dangerous. It has really sharp spikes and fins, kind of influenced by a lionfish, and its scales aren't smooth, they're much more rough and jagged. I want it to look like it could hurt you, make you wonder what its face looks like that you can't currently see. Its pose, well, its pose was actually just the pose of the model. Nothing special behind that. I wanted the tail to almost look like you could see the legs underneath it. Like maybe it's just starting to transition from tail to leg. I imagine this kind of mermaid, as it exits the water, starts to look more and more humanoid, more human-like. And as it's in the water, and even more so deeper down in the water, it loses those more human-like features and becomes more fish-like, more predator-like, sharp fangs, sharp claws, and it really looks like it could eat you. Oh, hey, while I was talking, I started working on the colors. So I started by blocking in a silhouette and laid down a single flat color. I went with sort of a desaturated light lavender color and used that as sort of my midtones and shadows. And then I started adding in a little bit more of a pinky color, a pinky peachy color for the lighter parts of the flesh. And then I went in with a sort of lighter blue for the highlights of the scales. I apply that same blue to the spikes on the back, and then some of the more, like, smaller, fleshy spikes, I went with that same pink color. I go through and add a little bit lighter color for the highlight on the flesh. I went with an even stronger, lighter pink, and then same with the tail, a stronger, lighter blue for the stronger highlight on the scales. I then go back in and add a little bit stronger shadows, doing kind of the same thing. For the shadows, I went with a little bit cooler, darker color on both the flesh and the scales, and then I moved to the hair. For the hair, I wanted kind of a silvery, bluish white, so I start with a cool gray for the base, build up some kind of warmer and cooler tones for a little bit of interest, and then for the highlights, I use a very light blue. For the colors, as I apply them, I am using a textured brush. I don't really like using just the flat brushes. I feel like it comes out looking too rubbery and smooth. So I went with a nice textured brush. For the fins, I color them a light blue, and then I adjust the opacity and the color mode. I want to say I left it as an overlay or a multiply, so that when I set it on a background, you'll see a little bit of whatever's behind it coming through. I also did that with a couple of the scales to make it look almost like they're reflecting the light. I had a hard time deciding what to do with the background. I didn't really feel like doing a whole painted out background scene, so I kind of played around with a few different things that were basically just a geometric shape or a really loosely painted background in the shape of a geometric shape. You'll see those right after I finish and when we take a closer look at the end product. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And you may have noticed that the color palette I used for this piece was pink, blue, and white, borrowed from the trans flag. Alright, here we go. Let's take a closer look at the final painting. Here it is with a very simplistic painted background, using the same color scheme but much more saturated as the mermaid itself. And here is just a really simple gray rectangle background. Let me know which one you prefer or any suggestions you have for a different background, because I wasn't sure. Alright, well this was Nick with NIXart Studio. Thanks for joining me today. Wishing you guys all a happy Pride Month. If you made it this far, drop bird in the comments. Here's some videos you can check out. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, and hit that bell for the bell stuff. Bye!